At Northern Tier, the equipment issued to your crew is highly specialized. And although you could buy the exact same whale bags and food bags that you would use at Northern Tier, for almost everyone, this isn't practical. Which means, of course, for most of us, we can think that we lack the proper resources that we need to practice portaging before our trip. Which leads to the question, is there anything I can do to practice portaging before my trip to Northern Tier? And the answer is, yes you can.
Hey, real quick, right before we jump into this video, if you'd do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Also, thank you for subscribing to this channel. If you'd like to be notified of future videos, please hit that bell icon. Have a great day and enjoy this video.
Before we get into the specific things you can do at home, I just want to remind you that an overall high level of physical fitness and strength goes a long way to better enabling you to have the best trip you can have. All right, so let's get to work. There are two main things that you can do to practice portaging at home. First, you can practice carrying heavy loads. And two, you can practice portaging a canoe. So let's talk about each of these in a little bit more detail. Carrying heavy loads will be a daily occurrence at Northern Tier. The average weight of a whale bag is roughly 75 pounds. The average weight of a food bag, depending on the size of your crew, the length of your trip, and the number of food bags you have, will vary between 75 to 100 pounds at the beginning of your trip. Yep, you heard me right. Your food bag could weigh as much as 100 pounds. But most loads are between 60 and 75 pounds. And I know that seems crazy, but that's the reality. Before we go further, I don't want you to mentally quit on me, okay? You are more than capable of doing everything at Northern Tier that you need to do. And I am going to show you how to do that. I also have a video called Portaging Options, which will be helpful to crews that have several members that weigh around 125 pounds. So keep watching this video and then also go check out that video. Remember that Northern Tier is a group activity. Everyone has to contribute. In this video, I'm going to show you how to practice carrying heavy loads. So let's start with what you'll need. Well, first, you'll need to find 1 to 2 military-style backpacks. Why a military backpack? Well, first of all, they're tough. They can easily carry 100 pounds. And using a military backpack won't destroy your actual backpack that you may have for camping or backpacking. So, start with 1 to 2 military backpacks. And then you're going to create weight bags. I recommend that you use dry sand or dry pea gravel. These materials tend to be good, dense materials to use and are easy to work with. And you can find sand or pea gravel in a lot of places. And it's fairly cheap. So, how much do you need? Well, I would recommend creating 2 bags of different weights. One bag is going to weigh 30 pounds and the other bag is going to weigh 45 pounds. Just for reference, sand weighs about 100 pounds per cubic foot and pea gravel weighs around 120 pounds per cubic foot. And a 5-gallon bucket is about 0.6 cubic feet. So you can use those as reference points if you need them to figure out about how much raw material you need to buy. All right, so we have 1 to 2 military backpacks. and sand or pea gravel. So what else do we need? Well, you're going to need empty sandbags. And you can find empty sandbags online, and they're really cheap. I would recommend that you get sandbags that have at least a 50-pound weight capacity. As a pro tip, once the sandbags are filled, try to make them as flat as you can, and then wrap them in duct tape to make them more durable. I'd also highly recommend that you allow the sand or gravel to completely and thoroughly dry out before you wrap it up inside the sandbag. All right, so here's your shopping list. You need 1 to 2 military backpacks, dry sand or pea gravel, you need empty sandbags, and duct tape. Now, once you have all it together, you need to make 2 30-pound bags of sand and 2 45-pound bags of sand for each backpack that you have. So if you have 2 backpacks, you need 4 30-pound bags and 4 45-pound bags. Now, you don't have to have the second backpack. If you have a larger crew, it just kind of helps get everybody through practicing portaging at one time. The next thing you will need is a place to practice. Now, just as a reference point, at Ely, the average length of a portage trail right around Ely is about 200 yards. There are definitely longer ones, and there are ones that are extremely short. But 200 yards is the average, so we're going to use that distance. A great place to choose to practice is where you have a good idea of distance. Okay? So a football field is a great example. Okay? It's 100 yards from goal line to goal line. So one trip from goal line to goal line and back to where you started would be 200 yards. Also, a football field is flat. So a football field is a great place to practice portaging, at least to begin with. Okay, now we have everything put together. Now let's actually do this. So gather your crew. This is a group activity. Starting with either 30 or 45 pounds of weight, plus the weight of the backpack, you're going to team lift the backpack from the ground onto your teammate's back, the one that's going to end up carrying it. This will be just like when you're portaging and lifting the whale bag or the food bag up and out of the canoe and onto someone's back. This is a team effort. Now, with the backpack on that person's back, make sure you put the hip belt on. You're going to walk from one goal line to the other goal line and back to cover 200 yards. You might consider having your teammates walk with you, especially as the weight increases, just in case there's a problem and you need to take the pack off. And then just keep repeating this multiple times in the same session and then multiple sessions. Okay? You want to increase the weight and the distance in case you don't make it all 200 yards until everyone, or most everyone, knows they can carry 75 pounds for 200 yards. So here are some different weight combinations you can make with 2 30-pound bags and 2 45-pound bags. You can make 1 30-pound backpack, again, not with including the weight of the backpack, 1 45-pound backpack, one using 2 30-pound bags, you can make a 60-pound backpack. You could use a 30 and a 45-pound weight bag to make a 75-pound backpack. And you could use 2 45-pound sandbags to make a 90-pound backpack. Now remember, you need to be safe. You don't want to hurt yourself. Everyone has a limit, and you need to see where that limit might be before you show up at Northern Tier. And it would be ideal if everyone could carry 75 pounds. If you can't carry 75 pounds, then at a minimum you're going to need to carry 60 pounds. 60 pounds is about what the Kevlar canoes weigh. But remember, there are only 3 canoes and 1 kitchen. So 4 people will be carrying about 60 pounds, and everyone else is carrying at least 75. If you want, you can increase the difficulty by climbing up and down steep hills, because most portage trails aren't flat. But again, be careful. This is not an exercise in hurting yourself, okay? This is an exercise in increasing your strength and your resilience to carrying heavy loads. You could also add wearing your trail clothes and your boots. And you could add in soaking your boots in water and then practice carrying your weight, okay? Remember, some boots, unfortunately, especially knockoff jungle boots and some military boots, okay, they have water-soluble glue that holds the soles on. And I know that sounds stupid, but they'll fall apart on you. So you want to figure that out before you get to Northern Tier. In the end, it's up to you and your crew on what you want to do. So that covers carrying heavy loads. Now let's talk about portaging canoes. Well, you can practice portaging a canoe at home. This is, in my opinion, secondary to your need to practice carrying heavy loads, because I say everyone has to carry something heavy. And you may find it difficult to find and use a canoe that will help you practice portaging. So the first step is to find a suitable canoe. So what is a suitable canoe? Well, I'm glad you asked. You need to find a canoe that's about 15 to 18 feet long. And most importantly, a canoe that has a yoke in the middle of the canoe. A yoke is a specially shaped thwart that is designed to transfer the weight of the canoe directly to your shoulders. And to do this, there is typically a cutout for your neck to fit into when you put the canoe on your shoulders. Most canoes do not have a yoke in the center of the canoe, because most of the canoes that you see, like the ones at summer camp, are not designed to be portaged. So what if I can't find a canoe with a yoke? Well, if the canoe has a middle thwart, which is a bar going from one gunwale to the other, or one side of the canoe to the other side of the canoe, then you still may be able to use that canoe. So if you have a canoe like this, then you may be able to find and purchase a set of yoke pads that are specifically designed to be installed onto a middle thwart. I just wanted to inform you that if you're searching for yoke pads to possibly use with the canoe that you're borrowing, that you probably will come across what appears to be an entire yoke plus the pads. And I just want to make you aware that even if this is a temporary situation where they bolt on or clamp to the gunnels, okay, those can slip out of place, which would result in hurting the person carrying the canoe. These also typically have to be cut to the exact length of the canoe. Of course, if you're borrowing a canoe, you will need to ask for permission to do this. Okay, assuming you've found a suitable canoe, let's talk about what to do. First, you need to watch my video on how to portage the canoe to understand the technique of how to pick up a canoe, flip it upside down and put it on your shoulders, and then flip it off of your shoulders and put it back down gently onto the water, onto the ground, or into the water. Okay? So to start off with, when you're ready, using two friends as spotters, one at the bow and one at the stern of the canoe, just practice getting the canoe up and onto your shoulders. And once the canoe's on your shoulders, practice flipping the canoe off of your shoulders, resting it on your thighs, and then gently setting the canoe back down onto the ground. Once you have that technique down, then simply, once the canoe's on your shoulders, walk around with the canoe. And once you're comfortable walking around with the canoe, then add in an obstacle course with tall obstacles that you have to walk around, through and under. This is to simulate negotiating around trees and tree branches that are on the portage trail. And of course, if you want, you could add in some steep hills. So let's say you can find a canoe, but one that's not ideal, and you still can't put a yoke pad on it. Can you still practice with this canoe and do something useful with it? Well, the answer is yes, you can. With your teammates, and only do this with your teammates as spotters, okay? just practice flipping the canoe up and over and putting it on your shoulders, just as if you had a yoke. Just make sure you move forward of a middle thwart, okay, because you don't want the thwart to hit the back of your neck. That would hurt. But in this circumstance, you won't actually rest the canoe on your shoulders. You're just going to practice flipping the canoe up and over, and then flipping it back down onto your thighs, and then gently setting it onto the ground. This at least gets you through the motion of, and the technique of, picking a canoe up off the ground or the water, getting it up onto your shoulders upside down, and then back down gently into the water or onto the ground. So to close, the point to all this is to firmly establish where your personal limits are with regards to carrying heavy loads. And I want to remind you that you have to be safe. This is not an exercise intended to hurt yourself. Remember, everyone has to contribute to the portage. You could look at it in this way. It's like lifting weights. You need to set a goal, and then you keep working at it until you've reached your goal. So it's possible, very likely, that you won't be able to carry 75 pounds the first time you do this. So you'll start light and then you'll work your way up. I also want to remind you that canoes are expensive and they can be damaged. If you happen to find and are able to use a Kevlar canoe, I just want you to know that Kevlar canoes easily cost a few $1,000s. So be very, very careful. And that wraps up this video. Have a blessed day.
Hey, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you'd like to support this channel, remember, please subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends about it. Thanks for hitting that like button. Everything here is free. I want to give back to the community. I want to give to you everything here for free. I've been out in the outdoors for a long, long time, and it's great that I can be able to give all this information to you. That is what's most important to me. If you would like to give back, I do have a GoFundMe page set up, and you can follow the link. And if you'd like to, if you're a youth with your parents' support, I would gladly accept your donations. Thank you, and have a blessed day.